All right, joining us now, she is the new head coach at Purdue. Of course, played softball internationally on the Argentina national team at one point. Magali Frezzotti joining us here on the show. How's that title settling in there, head coach?
Hi, Eric. Title is settling good. A lot of great things happening here in West Lafayette, and for me personally, obviously a lot of learning opportunities as I'm stepping into this new role. But overall, really positive experience for the last 2-3 months. Really excited about the staff that we put together and the student athletes that we have and what we're doing here. So pretty good.
Well, let's talk about what was it about this job that you decided, hey, this is a great opportunity for me. It was a unique off season from that standpoint. Just take us through that process as you know, you're trying to get this head coaching job.
Yeah, that's a good question. A few things. Purdue is a special place for me, for my family. My wife's side of the family, they're big Purdue fans, and Purdue means a lot to my family because of that. So from a personal standpoint, there was this idea of I want the opportunity to do something for Purdue softball and with Purdue softball to hopefully put them in a position where they can compete for championships. And there is a history of championships in Purdue athletics with every single sport. And softball has had good years here and there, right? But overall, we haven't been a consistent postseason team throughout the 20-some 30 years of the program. So from a personal standpoint, that challenge really excited me, right? Like the ability to maybe take on this program and see what I can do, knowing that it means a lot professionally and personally. But from a professional standpoint, Purdue is a place where you can win. We have phenomenal facilities. West Lafayette is has a great community. It's a super safe campus. The value of the education that we offer is second to none. And I really feel like we have all the resources between what I was saying facility wise, but also support staff, right? We have 2 sports psychologists that are full-time here. We have a dietitian that is with our team pretty much all the time, or as much as we need her to be. We have a strength and conditioning coach who is really, really good at developing speed. And we know that speed in softball really gives you an advantage because that translates into power and your ability to sequence well when you're hitting. And the same thing, it goes more than just the speed of running the bases. So really great job with him. Our athletic trainer is only with softball. So I just feel like overall we have a team that allow us to put the team in a position where we can compete for those championships. So I felt like professionally made a lot of sense for this to be my first head coaching job because, like I said in the beginning, I feel like Purdue is a place where we can win, and there is this this energy around campus that there's excitement about Purdue athletics, right? So from a cultural standpoint and from a motivational standpoint, it's easy to get on board, and get going.
What I would imagine for both sides, you and the school, there's a lot of young talent on this roster that I got to see last year in person that you're familiar with, having been on the staff, and they're familiar with. I would imagine that's something you both in common, both agreed on, and that probably helped too in that process.
Yeah, and I said this to some people that I've talked to. I acknowledge the privilege that I had as a head coach stepping into this role and having the roster that I have, because there is so much talent. And all of first year head coaches, they have to go in and rebuild. They have to go and recruit. They have to go and get people from the transfer portal. And that wasn't the case for us. So from that standpoint, like you're saying, we have young talent, but we also have experienced talent. Our senior class is very good. Our junior class is really good. And yes, our sophomore and freshman class, they got national recognition because of the recruiting class rankings and whatnot. But I wouldn't look past our junior and senior class because they're also very talented, and they have this understanding of what it means to represent Purdue, and they are super hard workers. So from both sides, right? Like softball talent, yes, young, but also experienced, and just good people in general.
So let's get to the day where you find out you get the job. What was your reaction when you got the job, and what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
I'll give you the most honest answer. I was numb because I was so overwhelmed with emotions. I was so excited that all I could say was thank you, thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you. I'm so excited. But I don't know. It was just like the way that I approach challenges and I approach opportunities is like I like to be prepared, and maybe experience a lot of stress prepping for the thing. But once I'm experiencing the thing, it's just a matter of like relief and really enjoying what's happening in front of me. So for me, that interview process, actually, I really enjoyed every time I got the chance to talk about my vision and who I am as a coach and what I want for Purdue, what I want for the student athletes, how I'm going to make Purdue softball a team that competes for championships. So, like I said, the prepping for the interview process and all that was a little stressful because I like to be prepared, but um, I knew that there was an element that was out of my control, right? Like I can present my best self, and then whatever they decide, they decide. Can't do anything about that. And because of that, I entered that process with an open mind, and just I'm gonna enjoy these things. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that it was surprising in a sense, but also I had no expectations. I was just showing up and, like I said, talking about my vision, talking about what I wanted to do with Purdue softball, and hoping that I was the right fit for the program.
So once you get the job, now you got to build a staff. Take me through that vision of, okay, who do I decide to bring into the staff, and your kind of your style of philosophy as far as what you want from a coaching staff.
That's another fantastic question. I was trying to be very intentional about bringing people that could complement me and also supplement for maybe my areas of weaknesses, because we all have them, right? I wanted to be able, as a first year head coach, to still coach and not be so overwhelmed by the things that are happening in the office. That the one thing that took me to this point in my career, that is coaching softball and developing people and put people in position where they can be successful and build their confidence and all these things. I feel like I have that, and I wanted to be able to use that still. So that's how I approach. Okay, this is what I need. I need a pitching coach that can use data. They can coach. The one thing that it was for everybody, I need coaches that can coach the game today, and that they have a learning mentality, that we can continue to evolve, right, and be relevant to the game, but also relevant in the way that we communicate, the way we coach to this generation. That was something that was important to me, just that learning mentality and that ability to be curious and continue to push forward with the knowledge in the coaching style. So the other thing that I say, pitching coach wise, with a little bit of that idea of coaching the game today and being able to evolve with the game, I wanted somebody that could use data and technology as a part of their coaching style. And that's how Jordan Ridgewood came about. She was at S2 Breakthrough in Chicago. And yeah, we got in touch. I heard that she wanted to be in the West Coast, so I kind of like didn't reach out to her right away. And then kind of like how things go, I was like, I'm gonna reach out and see, like she could always say no. And we had a really, really good first conversation, and then that led into the interview process and all that. So that's how Jordan Ridgewood came about. Jordan Rudd, obviously we played against her for 5 years. We suffered her for 5 years, and I have always admired as somebody coaching against her, that I feel like she is in a way self-made, because she had to continue to work on her game to continue to be better. She was good when she got to Northwestern, but you can see throughout the years, by the time she graduated, she was significantly better, right? And that tells me a lot about what they have done in those 5 years. And how she thinks the game. Like, I knew her transition from player to coach was going to be fast, because just the way that she plays. And also she has been working with tribal organizations in Indiana. She has been coaching for camp at Northwestern and things like that. But I thought she was going to be a really good addition from a standpoint of the things that I was talking about, being relevant to the game today, being able to connect with this generation, and somebody that thinks the game at a really high level and that has done a lot of things to improve her own game. So I knew she was going to have the resources to also help other people do the same thing. And then Heather is kind of like the person in the middle of those things, right? Like, Heather has been in the game for a really long time. She has really great relationships recruiting wise, and she has been in charge of different areas throughout her career as a coach. So I saw Heather as somebody that could really complement and kind of like connect the three of us, right? Like, Jordan Rich would be very specific with pitching, Rod being good catching. She could coach anything, right? But catching and maybe a little bit of hitting, and Heather being able to complement and supplement and kind of like maybe the glue between all of us, right? So Heather is doing a really good job recruiting wise already, and promoting our program, and identifying talent, and helping us all coaching things from base running and hitting with ideas of drills and how to approach timing. And the conversations that we have here in my office, they're very I don't want to keep using the word exciting, but we all have really great ideas, and it is very I don't know, rewarding, I guess, if I have conversation with them. So that's how the pieces kind of like came together, and what everybody brings to the table, and how we can be a solid unit because of the uniqueness that everybody has.
Offensively, are you still going to be involved running that, or is that going to be delegated? How does that work?
That's a good question. So for my first year, I told this to all three of them as we were going through the interview process, that I wanted to be the lead of the two, because I wanted to make sure that we could implement the identity of play that I had envisioned for this team. And once we can do that, then I feel more comfortable. But we're involved in everything, right? Like, this is okay. This is my idea for this week. These are the things that I want to cover. This is my vision for the program. What do you guys think? How should we approach this? These are my ideas, but again, we can collaborate with one another. And like Jordan, Rod, Heather, and myself, we're all coaching hitting, but we are making sure that we have those conversations in the office beforehand, so we all know what we're talking about. We all know what it is that we are assessing or evaluating or looking at as coaches. And with defense, kind of like the same thing. I was a defensive coach here when I was an assistant coach. And we kind of like talk about what we need to cover, and sometimes I'm with the infield, and sometimes Heather with the outfield, and sometimes we switch. Jordan is usually with the catchers if they are available to do catching work, but she's kind of like floating a little bit everywhere. So yeah, that's kind of how we're approaching in terms of dividing responsibilities for on the field specific.
Sounds like you want versatility in your staff, that you're not just set in stone on one particular thing. You could be versatile and help out in other areas or adjust if you need be. Because, I've had coaches that have that similar style. They've told me the most important thing is that the players get what they need. And if that means we got to, we have to adjust and somebody else's message is better, so be it. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we prepare them, we put them in a position to be successful, but they're the ones executing, right? They're the ones playing. We're facilitating the game, but they're playing it, right? So I think you're right on with that comment of like, we need to serve the student athlete, and the more we can have the like deeper conversation and ability to communicate differently to achieve the same goal, I think the better chances you're gonna get.
The players obviously know you because you were on the staff. How did they react when you got the job, and then how is them getting to know the new staff, the assistants, and how is that going?
Yeah, I mean, they reacted well. They were really happy, or at least that's what it looked like. I think they were pretty genuine with their excitement. And it's going well. I mean, we have been pretty clear about kind of like expectations from a coaching staff to the players on like, this is the culture we want to build, this is the environment we want to create for you all, and these are the ways that you are responsible to also invest and create this culture and this environment. And relationship take time, right? So we have been around each other for maybe a month now, so far it's going well, right? But same thing, they have known me for 2 years, so it's natural that perhaps the relationship that they have with me is a little bit different than the ones that they have with the rest of the staff. And it's okay. We talk about trust as one of our core values, right? And trust the same way as relationship. It's not something that, oh, I like you, Eric, so I automatically trust you. No, we don't know each other, right? And we talk a lot about each fall being a time to build. And one of the things that we want to build is trust, since every year, right, like you have people graduating and people coming in, so it's a new team every year, and it's no different right now, right? Like a brand new staff, different culture perhaps, even though I was around, but it's going well overall. Things are pretty positive. We scrimmage this last weekend, Saturday, Sunday. We scrimmage each other, and the energy was phenomenal. Just the focus that the players had, and the understanding of this was the first time that we were playing, right, since we started this new process, and their understanding of the type of softball that we want to play and their ability to already implement that, I was super surprised in a wonderful way, because it happened fast, right? Like, and I was telling them, we were kind of like wrapping up the week, that if this is our baseline, we're very excited about what our ceiling is. That we feel really, really comfortable about where we're at right now.
We're speaking with new Purdue head coach Magali Frezzotti here on In the Circle. Let's talk a little bit about your journey to get here. How did you get interested in playing softball? First of all, let's start with that.
Oh boy, I'll try to make this quick. I'm Argentinian. Softball is not a very popular sport back home. Everybody likes soccer, basketball, tennis, whatever, anything but softball or baseball. And for some reason, I became in love, obsessed, whatever you want to call it. And I chased softball all through high school, and I wanted to come play softball in college. And my parents kind of was like, no, I'm the last of six, so I have 5 siblings older than me. None of them play sports at a very like serious level. They did it like recreationally, but my parents didn't understand the magnitude of what college athletics had to offer for people that are serious about sports, right? So they asked me, they said, you're going to stay here, you're going to get your degree. So I did that, graduated, and I said, okay, now I need you to buy me a ticket to go to the US. That's all I need from you, 1 ticket. And then I'm going to figure that out after that. And I became friends with Amanda Chittister. She was playing internationally, and she was very generous, opening an opportunity for me, saying, if you want to come and train with me, we can maybe do camps and things like that, and we can learn from each other. And I didn't hesitate. I was like, I'm if you're serious about it and you're not just saying it because you're nice, I'm coming. And so that was September of 2013. And fast forward 10 years, and here I am sitting on this chair. I started as a GA at Concordia University in Ann Arbor. That was across the street from the apartment. I was roommates with Amanda for 5 years. I lived in Ann Arbor because we were training together. And as we were training, I was like, you know what, I may want to get into coaching. Let's see. And Concordia was right there. And it was a really good opportunity for me to see what that felt like and if it was a good fit. And obviously I loved it. So yeah, that's kind of like the beginning of everything. Just somebody obsessed with a sport that really wanted to be excellent at it. And he was very curious about what was out there waiting. And here I am.
That's amazing. Amanda Chittister. That's a good person to have.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. Her family's awesome. They all opened the doors and were super welcoming to me. My English was decent, but it wasn't as good as it is right now. So a lot of patience there in the communication process. And
well, hopefully you taught her Spanish in return. You know, that's a fair trade.
Well, if I taught her and if she learned, those are 2 different things. Okay, so right. Can't be responsible for her performance right now.
That's funny. I want to ask you about Argentina. So we've had Val Silvestrini on this show. She's a good friend of the show, Division II head coach Florida Tech, which I told you about before we started. We've had a long conversation about growing the sport of softball in Latin America, like Argentina, etc., which, as you mentioned, is a challenge. Obviously, soccer is big. Lionel Messi has shown that recently. World Cup title, World Cup, and now playing in the MLS, dominating there. But you mentioned basketball is very popular there with players like Manu Ginobili helping him make it big. Even tennis with Juan Martín del Potro has been tremendous. So what's the key to building that growth of interest in softball, considering all the competition that you have from places like Argentina where they have so many options?
That is a great question. And I can only have thoughts. If I have the solution and I'm not doing anything with it, then I'm doing a disservice to the sport. But usually quantity helps you find more talent, just because if more people play the sport, right, your chances of developing and finding really good talent go up. So that would be an easy, I wouldn't say easy, maybe a good place to start, just creating interest throughout the country so more people can play the sport. The other challenge that we face is in terms of equipment, right? Equipment is expensive here for U.S. citizens who have salaries that are in American dollars, and think about inflation and all the things that happen in Latin American countries where perhaps it's a little bit more difficult, and what you can do with your money is a lot less. So that's another challenge, that, okay, you can do all these things, but you always run into that issue. Every time I go back to Argentina, that I try to go every December, I play for my county team, and we bring equipment every single year. Anything that I can find used, I buy, whatever the case might be. And it's still like there's a need for that type of thing. So that would be another thing to think about. And an advantage that we have in a way is that I have friends, I have teammates that are 40 years old and they're still playing. So it's like this kind of like the travel ball system that we have here. But I was 15, 16 playing with 30-year-old women. And that in a way helped me, right? Because it elevates a little bit of, like, the older you get, the more you understand the game. So your ability to at least play it and think it at a higher level goes up. And then the last thing that is also an advantage in a way is that our men's fast pitch, it's really, really good. We are world champs. We won it a couple of years back, and for the last 10 or so years, they have been doing a really, really good job. Kind of like talking, I was saying about identifying talent sooner and developing that talent from the age of 13, 14 until they go all the way up. So that also allows us to sometimes play against men's fast pitch, men's teams, and that helps a little bit elevate. But like I was saying, I feel like if more people can do that, if we can have more teams instead of 4 teams here, 4 here, I think that would give us a better chance at being a little bit more serious about it. And there are kids that are intrigued about the idea of coming and playing in college, and I think the biggest value of that is the systematic thing about college, right? That you're going to practice 20 hours a week and you're going to play 56 games every single season. So although it's only for 4 years, just being in that system where you're getting great instruction every single day and you have a workout plan and all those things, that elevates too, even if it's 1 or 2 people. Venezuela and Brazil did this a couple of years. Well, a couple of years, it's been like 15, 20 now, but where they made it an intentional thing to send people. It didn't matter if it was NAIA, JUCO, Division I, Division II, Division III, send people to play in college, and that really elevated their national team, and that really elevated kind of like the level of play back home, even after they graduated from the 4 years. So I don't have the answer. I just have ideas, like I said. But
well, that's good. It's good to have ideas. Coach Silvestrini has ideas as well. She's friends of yours. Tell me about you two being friends. They're obviously played on the Argentina national team. Tell me how you connected, and what's it like having her as a friend and somebody that you can maybe talk about topics like this. And obviously she's a head coach herself.
Yeah, Val and I played, we were teammates on the national team for 2 or 3 years. I was 17 years old the first time that I got to play for the national team, for the senior national team, I would say. And it was 2005. We played in Guatemala, a Pan American qualifier. And I just remember I didn't know much about Val because at this point she had been living in Spain and then in the US. So I hadn't really had interacted with her in Argentina. But a lot of people knew her, obviously, because she is Argentinian. And so my first experience with her was that she was in a way intimidating, right? She was pretty serious about, like, super disciplined, super competitive. She was playing center field. She used to be a second base shortstop, but obviously people, like, whenever you have to put the best team together, right? So she was our center field, and I remember her making really great catches and all that. But I wouldn't say we were friends then. 2005, I was kind of like at the bottom and she was up here, so we were teammates. We got along well. But and then 2007 was the second one that we shared, and that was her last tournament playing for Team Argentina. But as I moved to the US and I started this journey of I want more, I need to know more, and I got into coaching, I think that's where our friendship really, like, settled and became a thing, because we could talk a little bit more from a peer and colleague standpoint, and having experience in a way. And I can only speak for myself. Obviously, I don't know how she experienced all of this, but 2 Argentinians really following this path, this journey of softball, and ending up coaching and becoming head coaches and all that. So I have a lot of respect for Val. I think that she's somebody who always, she doesn't negotiate excellence. She knows what she wants, and she holds herself accountable to that, and she does that with her teams as well. She has been doing a phenomenal job at Florida Tech.
You played 13 years for the national team. You were a team captain. You played in the World Cup and the Pan American Championships, the Pan Am Games, in different places. Describe that experience. What's like representing your country and playing in these international events.
Representing my country is one of the biggest honors that you can probably have, right? And it was always this bittersweet in a way, because it was the excitement and the opportunity, but also like, we can do more, we can do better. I want Argentina to be better than what it is, and but enjoying that like I was saying, I approach each challenge with this sense of like preparation and joy, and I feel like that wasn't different as a player. But again, represent my country, biggest honor, obviously, and what that has allowed, and the doors that has opened for me, I think is the reason why I'm here right now. I have met friends from all over, opponents, people that I played against that I have a lot of respect, and that sometimes initiates a conversation, and then you realize that you have a lot of things in common, that you have been through the same type of challenging situations. We actually, this is kind of like a side comment, I'll go back to representing the national team and playing internationally, but we created during COVID this group. It's called Line Up Latino, and it's me, Ruby Rojas, who is from Venezuela, Yurubi Alicard from Venezuela, Carla Claudio, still playing for Puerto Rico, is a Puerto Rico national team captain. Mariana is from Mexico. She's actually in the operation world with the Diamondbacks in Arizona, and myself. And the only reason why that happened is because we played against each other, right? Like, we became friends, and it became this kind of community, virtual community, where we all wanted to serve in a way our countries in the Latin American softball community. And we had time, right? That's what something that everybody had during COVID: time in their hands and ability to sit down in front of a computer and put content out there. So that's something that I really enjoy, and something that competing internationally gave me. But one of my favorite things was just, it's one tournament a year, usually one or two, and you spend the whole year prepping for one or two things, and either you show up or you don't, right? And that was fun too, just prepping and training and practicing, having that one thing in mind, and knowing that, perhaps talking about that system, right? You're going to play against teams that perhaps have a more systematic way to develop their programs. And in Argentina, you're kind of spread out, and then you have a team camp, and then you spread out, and you're on your own for your preparation for the most part. And knowing that you need to be competitive enough to beat that opponent that perhaps has other resources that you don't have. And that was fun, right? That was fun because you get to be creative, and you have to think about different ways to make yourself competitive and continue to grow with the game.
How has that experience helped you in your coaching career, considering you've places you've been to, Concordia, Eastern Michigan, Montana, then obviously now Purdue? You know, these places you haven't had maybe all the things that maybe you would need, right, to be as successful, but you make what you do with what you have and be successful that way. And adjust, whereas other people or coaches maybe struggle with that, but you've kind of grew up in it. Hey, we don't have all this luxury of all the things that say players in the States do. Has that helped you from a coaching standpoint?
100%. In different, not just from an equipment standpoint, right? From a talent standpoint of what can you do? Well, exactly what you said. What can you do with what you have right now? What can we do with the roster that we have right now? And how can we maximize the talent? How can we help the players play to their strength instead of thinking about what we're missing? You're always going to be missing something. You can have every single piece of equipment in the world, and you can have the top 2 recruiting class in the country, and you're still going to miss something. So yeah, I think that definitely helped me, and helps me get perspective on how we go our things. One of our core values, I was talking about trust, respect is another one of our core values. And we talk a lot about the equipment and the facilities, and how we finish and we clean up after ourselves, but also how we prepare for the next thing that we have, and not just for me, but for the person that is coming after me. So we talk a lot about that, just respecting the equipment and understanding that we are very privileged in what we're getting. and that we have the ability to have really nice things, and we can have nice things for a really long period of time, and we can do more with our resources. If I don't have to buy a new hack attack every single year because I'm taking care of my equipment, then that means that I can buy something else and we can, get more with what we have because we're taking care of the things that we do have.
Describe yourself as a player for those that didn't see you play. And then how would Magali Frezzotti, the coach, and Magali Frezzotti, the player, get along if they're in the same room?
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Well, I think that I can approach the answer about me as a player from two different perspectives. The one that is super hard on myself, that I was never good enough, or the one that is like, you know what, you did some things that were actually good. But I feel like other people can probably describe me better than I can describe myself. I was super hard worker. I was smart. I was a smart player. Sometimes I got in the way of my performance, just overthinking things. I grew up playing shortstop. I eventually played a little bit outfield, but ended up as a catcher. And I think that was the position that I served best and the position that served me best, because I had the ability to use that brain of mine in a way that didn't get in the way of my athleticism. So exactly, I don't know performance wise, but somebody that work hard the same way as I do as a coach, that prepare and train and super disciplined about understanding the things and the steps that I need to take to get what I want, and really enjoying competing. And I got really mad at myself when I didn't get the results that I wanted. And that's something that with time, and I think as a coach, I have changed, I have learned, and that I try to teach our kids. They're not kids anymore, our student athletes, also that you need to learn, but you cannot hold on to things, because you're going to be missing the next thing, the next opportunity, that sometimes is the next pitch, sometimes it's the next game. It doesn't matter when, but you got to move on, right? Like, we're going to learn, we're going to take what we need, and we're going to practice when we practice again during the week, but you got to move on for sure. So that's one thing that is different from player to coach, is that I think I'm still learning, obviously, but I give myself a lot more grace, and I practice a lot more self-compassion than I did as a player.
Tell me about your journey going to Eastern Michigan. What led you to there, and then Montana?
Oh boy. Eastern Michigan, like I said, I was at Concordia for 2 years, and Eastern Michigan was still 50 minutes from Ann Arbor. Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor are like sister cities, and Michigan had become my home away from home. So it made a lot of sense for me to, okay, I'm playing at the international level, I'm playing at a kind of like semi-professional level. I want to see what Division I has to offer in terms of talent. Is it really different or not? Is it a better fit or not? So it made sense from all of these perspectives. And Skeeter, we're friends still. She was my boss there at Eastern Michigan. And all of these things also happening with this complex system of immigration, right? Like, what was my immigration status at the time, and what that allowed me to do and be at that time. So all of those things was like, Eastern Michigan is the right fit. Let's do that. And similar with Montana, I had a choice that I had to make at the time. Am I ready to go back home, or how serious am I about this dream of mine, this journey of mine of developing as a coach and making this my profession, right? So the option was, there were only a few schools that would sponsor a work visa, and I needed that. Or I had this other option of pursuing another master's degree, which I had gotten one from Concordia, and stay in Division I and see what that opened up in the future. And Skeeter, being my mentor and friend at the time, she said, you need to stay in the game. You need to stay in the game. You need to buy yourself time. And Montana is a great opportunity for you, because they're a good program. They're young. They have good facilities. You're going to have all of these things professionally that are going to fulfill you and push you to be better. And you can still do these things. So I went there as a GA. So I was a GA at Concordia, I was a GA again at Montana for a couple of years, and then I became an assistant when those immigration things kind of like settle a little bit and more doors open. So that's why, like, one thing, it's a combination of things, right? Like, what was allowed and able to do, and what made sense for me professionally. And Montana was awesome. It was another time where I was leaving home behind. I left Argentina, went to Michigan, I grew as a person. I made friends. I was part of a community, and then it was just me. I packed my bags and I moved across the country. Moved in with three people that I didn't know before, and I grew so much. You know, it was an opportunity for me to grow a bunch. And Mel had a lot of grace and patience for me. Mel, my boss at Montana, and yeah, a couple of years after that, the opportunity to come to Purdue opened up, and my wife is from Indiana too, so it was an opportunity for us to come back and be closer to family and continue that professional development that made sense to me.
Interesting. You didn't play in the Big Ten, but I feel like you're a Big Ten person. Like you grew up in the Big Ten area. You
Yeah,
obviously friends with Amanda Chittister, who played in the Big Ten, obviously in
right.
Michigan, Eastern Michigan. I mean, you're in Big Ten country. I would imagine in a lot of ways. Obviously, that's probably part of the reason, as you mentioned, you came to Purdue as well as family. But I would imagine as this interview process was going for the head coaching job, that came out in your interview process, that you have
Mm-hmm.
that passion for the Big Ten that a lot of coaches have that are in the Big Ten. There's that pride factor. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100%. Big Ten, you know, the academic value of the schools in the Big Ten, the sense of integrity in the way that we do things, the classy things about the stadiums and how the programs are, ran and whatnot. So yeah, absolutely, you're right on that. I got to watch a lot of Big Ten since I moved to the U.S. and super familiar. And like I was saying in the beginning about Purdue and being able to win, you know, like I feel like if you put a serious program and a serious system in place at the school you're at, and that you recruit the talent that you need, that there is opportunity to win also within the conference, right? Like it's not, yes, Northwestern has been really good for a lot of years. So has Minnesota. Like there are a lot of teams, but there are also two or three teams that are constantly going like up, down, up, down. So there is that opportunity to establish ourselves within the Big Ten as well.
And of course, it helps when you have the endorsement of a Carol Hutchins. I will read now the following her quote that was in when the press release when you were announced as the head coach. Here, quote: "Maggie's a fantastic person and the ultimate coach," said Carol Hutchins. The winningest. She has years of relevant softball experience, but her biggest strength is her relationship building and her straightforward approach to teaching the game. She's a player's coach and a tremendous human being. The sky is the limit with Maggie. That is high praise coming from Coach Hutch to say that. She doesn't just say that about anybody.
I know. It's every time I hear or read that, it's like, what did I do?
How did you two connect?
Through Amanda, you know, like I said, we trained together for 5 years and we used the facilities a lot. And when I was doing my first master's at Concordia, it was required that I did an internship. And I'm like, I don't want to do an internship, you know, I just want to coach softball. And I asked if we could create an internship for me because I wanted to be in the offices. I wanted to hear the conversations that the Michigan coaches were having. I wanted to help in any way I could if there was a possibility for me to even help in any way, right? Like super strong program. And obviously, like you said, Hatch is the goat, as people call her. So I got to spend about 2 months in the fall. I don't remember if it was 2016 or something like that, in their offices, just, you know, kind of like being a fly in the wall and listening to everything. So that's how we connected. And she has been a phenomenal supporter of mine. She had advocated for me when I was going through that transition between Eastern Michigan, that they cut the program. So it was a very unfortunate and difficult situation to handle. She was making phone calls for me, you know. It was like, and I didn't have it was like, call this person, I talked to this, blah, blah, blah. And since then, every time that I'm thinking about a professional change or what I have doubts about, am I being a good assistant coach, what do I need, like she's always open and willing to have a conversation with me. So I feel super blessed. I understand the randomness of this situation, right? This girl from Argentina comes and all of a sudden one of the best coaches in the world, you know, is advocating for her and saying these wonderful things. I feel truly honored.
Having her and Skeeter, who you mentioned, we've had Skeeter on the show. I remember I had her when the program shut down at Eastern Michigan. I would imagine that's two good other people to have for you can seek out for advice as you're kind of doing the head coaching deal. That's not a bad people to have on your speed dial.
That's right. That's right. They are, sometimes I feel like I'm not giving them as much as they're giving me, but I can always give that to somebody else, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about obviously your vision with Purdue. Obviously, the Big Ten, which is a strong league, it's going to get stronger in the future with the additions of UCLA and Washington and Oregon coming. That's a whole other topic for another time when we get you back on the show. My question to you is, what is going to take? What's the key? This is the 30th season anniversary of Purdue softball coming up. From your vision, what's the keys? What are a couple of the keys for Purdue to get back into that NCAA tournament talk, which is obviously your vision and your goal that you feel you can do?
What are the steps? The steps are some things that I've been kind of like talking about here and there in this episode of the podcast. Having a clear vision of what it is, what type of softball we want to play. That's number one thing. I am big about identifying the areas that are going to be important to you and really emphasize those things and choose your battles, right? Like we're not going to be able to be excellent at all of these things. So we need to come to an understanding of like, these are the things that we need to be successful. And if we can do this at a really high level, then we're going to get a good chance to be successful. There's a quote, I love this book, Atomic Habits. And one of the quotes that I took from that book talks about the idea of narrowing the focus, upping the quality, and increasing the speed, right? Like identify a few things, do better, and then be able to do them often. Like how random like thought, right? Like a bunt. And we're talking about bunting just now this last week. The number one thing we want to accomplish is down and fair, right? And then we want to do 10 out of 10, down and fair. We're not even talking about soft. We're not talking about third baseline, first baseline. We'll get there when we get there. But the one thing that we need when we need a sack bunt is that it's down and fair, because that gives us a chance to move the runner. So really emphasizing that and being able to reinforce when the athlete accomplishes the one thing that you ask of them. So that's how we're building our program, right? Like these are the things that are important to us, and we are going to say, you did a good job, you did a good job, you did a good job, and then kind of like the snowball effect, right? Like the core is solid, and then you can add a little more, and then you can add a little more. So I think that that's going to give us a chance to present a strong way of playing, that we're going to understand what type of softball we want. We're going to understand how we can win as a team. We're going to think the game in a smart way, in a fast way. We're going to be able to anticipate plays offensively and defensively. We're going to be able to play to our strength, but hopefully using those strengths to exploit a little bit of the weaknesses of the opponents as well. And you talk about diversity within my staff, and in a way our lineup offensively is very diverse too, because we have mix between speed and power. We maybe don't have 3 or 4 kids that are going to hit 30, 40 home runs a year, but we have a lineup that as a whole probably can hit 40, 50 and can hit 60, 70, 80 doubles. But we can also steal bases. And talking about playing to our strength, that's going to be one of the point of emphasis as well, of understanding that this is a strength of ours. It's not, you can see a weakness of ours that we are not going to hit 150 home run. Maybe we will, and I hope we do. Don't get me wrong. I would love if we can hit 200 home runs a year. But understanding that we can do really great things with the talent that we have in the roster currently. So that's my vision of how we're going to make a difference in the Big Ten this year. A very clear identity of play, and a really tight an investment in ourselves, in the circle, right? Like in who makes the program, and really pouring into that and not worrying so much about what's happening outside of that circle.
We look forward to seeing your team play, not just in the fall, but come February and moving forward. And then my last question, it's a non-softball question. It's what I asked Val. Got to ask you, it'll be fair. Will you go see Leo Messi play, unless you've already seen him play in person? If you've not, are you going to try to see him play while he's playing in the MLS here in the next couple of years?
I would love to. I would love to see him in person. My wife and I went home last December, and we landed the day that we played the semifinal in the World Cup. So obviously it wasn't in person, but we got to experience the World Cup in Argentina.
Wow.
And it was awesome. I mean, I obviously hadn't experienced that, but my wife didn't have maybe an idea of how crazy the culture around soccer was back home, and it was just a phenomenal thing to experience back home.
I didn't know that. That had to be amazing. Well, what was that like to be there? Because that's To me, it's the greatest World Cup game final ever. The back and forth. Argentina had to leave. France
Insane.
comes
We thought
back.
we had it, then we
Right.
didn't. We thought we had it again, then
Yeah.
we didn't.
So what was that like? Because I mean, this is because it's been a drought, right? Since '86 when Maradona won the World Cup in Mexico, and this is the and this is the thing that's been missing from Messi's resume, quote unquote. What is
Yeah.
that like to be in that country when everything's literally focused on that one game?
It was insane. It was insane to see that sense of community, the unity within people that like maybe they hate each other every other day, but for 2-3 weeks we loved each other. You know, you're
Yeah,
Argentina, you're my best friend, and people were out and about and being loud and fun, and it was a really amazing experience. One in a lifetime, I would say.
I would say so. That's a smart move there, and hopefully you get to see him play in person the next couple of years. I know Val's working on that, but in the meantime, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule. Great to get to know you. Definitely want to get you back on the show down the road, but in the meantime, good luck this fall and this upcoming season. Thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you, Eric. It was a lot of fun.